Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. I'm looking at a special publication from Jordan's. It's part of the Jordan's publishing group, and it's one of these loose leaf publications which we use in practice. It's very heavy. This is binder 1. It's called Manual of Construction Agreements. There's the spine on the side. It's been written by Richard Cockram. You can see his name mentioned there. It's obviously very heavy. It's a loose leaf format. It starts off with a statement. There's an update right at the front. Then you go straight into the basic information there. This is binder 1, as you can see that. And then you can see from there we go straight into part A, which is law and practice. You can see how it's structured as well. It's very much part and parcel of the way we do things with loose leaf. It's paragraph numbering at the side, so you can insert new things as they change. It's extremely detailed, as you can see from all of this. It's the final word, as I've indicated. I'll tell you a bit more about what our views are in a minute. There is in binder 1 a main index at the back, which is very helpful. Let me also show you, I'll leave that there, binder 2. Because binder 2 is even heavier, and it's got a very large number of different parts to it. There's binder 2. It's got a very useful CD, which is there, which is an update in the little sleeve at the front. Then you've got part 2, which is covering forms. Now it's covering a whole range of forms, and you can see that they are all tabbed there all the way through to 10. I'm not going to go through all of that detail, but you can see again how it's structured. It's got the actual numbering at the top there, which gives you a much better idea of where you can find things. Then you've got all sorts of other things, miscellaneous comments at the back. You've got a nice content section each time in it. Then right at the back you've got your update list, so you or your colleagues can keep the matter updated as much as possible. As I say, the information that you've got in these publications is most useful. This is the print version. There's also an online version. Now I can't show you that, unfortunately, because again on the computer it's not going to come across in this presentation, but you've got a lot of very helpful advice and very heavy detail which is actually in the actual online service itself. You've also got the updates. Now I'm recording this in May of 2014, and this is the most recent update from March. So it's very much as current as it can be by way of the information it's offering. It's also telling you about any changes. Now the reason we're reviewing this, and we don't normally do loose leaf reviews, but this is an important one, because what we're trying to say here is to show the importance of the loose leaf reference material for research, because legal research actually is one of the very important aspects of a counsel's role. He may get people to devil for him, he or she, but at the end of the day, we quite often, when we're producing a skeleton for the actual hearing in court, we may have to do quite a lot of additional looking around to find the relevant information, and this is the publication that you can get. Now I haven't mentioned it in the review, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, but the one thing that's very relevant to this is you can get this at any time. You've got an online service which is actually available at any time, and many practitioners will know that you could quite easily get something coming in quite late and need to deal with it pretty quickly. That means that you won't have time to get to one of the Inns of Court libraries or anything like that. So you've got both the publication in the loose leaf print version, and you've got the online services as well. So let me tell you what's in it and why I think that this is a particularly important tool, if I can use that word, for us, because the loose leaf reference work is what we actually use on quite a large number of occasions. You can take the stuff out quite easily and photocopy it. Now my wife and I have written a review, and we've called it this. We've said the ultimate statement on contract agreements for leading practitioners at the construction bar. That's actually what I think it is, because of practice at that particular bar, and this is the sort of thing we need. And can I also say that the loose leaf publications are relevant throughout my practice and that of anybody certainly in the civil jurisdiction. Criminal jurisdiction is slightly different, but there's still a lot of stuff that's available. What we say though is this: this excellent loose leaf work is best described as the definitive practitioner's guide to construction drafting, and it's a prerequisite for those members practicing at the construction bar. As to be expected, it is the complete guide to all aspects of the relevant law and practice for construction agreements, and there's nothing better. In common with other publishing companies, Jordan Publishing, including their family law imprint section, has produced a series of fundamental loose leaf works which concentrate on particular legal disciplines relevant for specialist counsel, such as myself or anyone else. Family law being the main area, but this is another part of it which Jordan's have covered. We cannot do without these works to carry out our professional duties properly, because they contain everything which is current about a specific aspect of law for which legal research is undertaken. And that includes not just this, but everything that we have in the main 4 Inns of Court libraries, because the loose leaf publications are by far the most important for us as practitioners. You can have the books, but it's this stuff, because it's continually updated by the librarians in the inns, and that actually gives us the help we need. Most lawyers will remember from their student and early training days how much reliance can and must be placed on up-to-date, concise and detailed works which we need for court, for opinions and for drafting. This is where this comes in. We're pleased to say that Jordan's are the leader as publishers in this field, in our view, with their excellent reference and research materials. And I do say that because there are, of course, other organisations and companies that publish similar stuff, all of which is of the highest quality available. Jordan's produced these specific ones, and for those involved in these specialist areas, there isn't anything to beat them. Richard Cockram's Manual of Construction Agreements, therefore this one and the other, the second binder, is a world leader in our view for construction law, with its regular updates, which is the basis for this loose leaf reference work format. There's also an online service which I've mentioned, which is particularly relevant to today's savvy web user, although we do recognise that some users will have initial difficulties with the navigation of the various sites, as it's a matter of getting used to the new ways of doing things. And that's the same with any aspect of loose leaf work or academic journals. The general advice is to practice using the sites that you've got access to and all the sub-areas, either on your PC or on the tablet. You'll be aware, of course, that there are different ways of opening some of the sites up once you've got through with your username and your password. It's rather like getting used to a new mobile telephone handset, as they all have their own different little quirks, as you all know, and you have to get used to them. But you get there in the end, and with a good understanding of what the online system offers, it's quite a quick process, as practice of course makes perfect. And I've found to my cost, both with the mobile phones and with the different PCs and iPads and everything else I've used, that each one's different. You have to get used to it. It's like driving a car, really. Once you've got used to it, it's relatively straightforward. Just look out for all the people that are around you if you're driving them. Can we offer a word of warning about the loose leaf works in general, though? Don't expect too much until you're conversant with where things are in the volumes. Remember that there's a tremendous amount of information available, because this is where the law is stored, and always be aware that the concept of ignorance of the law is no excuse is one of those little legal fictions which politicians and judges love, because we all know that you can't possibly be aware of much of what is in these loose leaf works, which is why legal research is needed in the first place. So the idea that you can know all of this is ridiculous, but you've got to know where to find it. And remember, the key with the internet today is, because it's so big, it's about selectivity. You've got to be able to select what you're actually looking for and know where to find it. And really it's, as I say, a matter of practice to a certain extent. The other major point, which I think you should be aware of, is that some practitioners will assume erroneously that the online side of the work will offer you everything you may need for court. And that's actually not the case. I did look online at the manual and I found it extremely helpful. But I also find it useful to have the book itself, because sometimes I'm going to need to take things out. And it's not quite so easy sometimes to cross-refer when you're on the computer, as I'm sure you're aware. But certainly with the loose leaf, it's, to a certain extent, you can put post-it notes in and you can cross-refer. This, of course, is not necessarily the case with everybody, because each person works differently. What I would say is that the loose leaf reference system makes it easier for us to copy papers for court and to put little post-it notes up and sometimes take them out and cross-refer them, because I've certainly done that myself. I don't think the librarians are too keen on that, but however, but you've got to remember, you've got to do something which is easy for you, and don't forget that the judge that you're in front of may not use computers regularly either, so, or even like them, so therefore he or she may have difficulties. So you've always got to be a little bit sort of careful, have the antennae there to know who likes to use what. But this is an excellent system for out of hours, silent hours, study, if you like, when you haven't got access to the libraries. Then there's the court service itself that you've got to think of. It's currently being thoroughly reshaped in the post-legal aid for all era that's now upon us. So I think that the Jordan's facilities have now come to be accepted as a brilliant step forward, because they are becoming more commonplace in chambers, in the courts, and for ADR mediators and so on, including video links as they come into more regular usage to avoid time delays and travel costs. And I'm aware of the issues with Skype, which is unfortunate, but again, all of these things are very much part, as we enter the middle of the decade of the 21st century, of the second decade, we've got to look at how we're conducting our business. As I say, the manual has the two binders, binder 1 and binder 2 down there. Binder 1 has a table of cases at the front, then it goes straight into part A, and right at the top you have A and then the number, and that gives you the paragraph numbering all the way through. I think you'll find with the law and practice section, which is in binder 1, part A, the specific paragraph numbering makes it quite easy to find things, and then right at the back you've got the main index for both of the binders, which is actually quite helpful. By the way, that main index is not in binder 2. On binder 2, as I said and showed earlier, you've got the sleeve at the front with the CD updates, and you've got what is called part B, which comprises forms, and this is where all the drafting bits come in, if I can put it rather more crudely. That's in fact where you're going to find the hands-on detail that you want, which you'll need, and thankfully it's updated very regularly as part of the service which Jordan's offer, and that's actually what we want. People wonder why it costs a lot. It has to, because we've got to have at our fingertips all the information, because as I said before, ignorance of the law is no excuse, so you've got to know where to find everything. Right at the back, as I say, of the second binder, you don't have an index, but you've got the update form, which allows you to manually list what has come in, so you can keep to the top of your game, if you like, all the time. Obviously it's useful to add, change the old loose leaf pages and then remove them and put the new ones in to add and reflect the changes in law and practice. Let me conclude by saying that construction drafting is described as a central part of commercial property transactions, which can raise complex issues of law interpreting and procedure. Practitioners in the last few decades have found that the easiest way, for the moment at least, to address these issues lies with the rapid access, online and in paper format, to draft forms of agreement and specialist expertise based on a sound understanding of industry practice, case law authorities, and both primary and secondary legislation. This is what you're getting with the package. You get all of this, I think, with the manual itself, which remains the ultimate statement on the subject, and there's nothing to beat it. And again, with the complete service you've got, which is at any time. I think that gives you a tremendous boost with the practice as a whole. As I say, it's very heavy, but you know, you've probably all used these loose leaf things. You get used to them. Remember the bit there where you take the thing out. I'll just do that now so you can see what it looks like. For those of you who've never seen it before, and you can see that you've got updates that come in. Abbreviation's always useful. But as I say, I've been very pleased with these. We have to use these loose leaf formats very regularly in court. And I'd like to thank Jordan's, certainly Richard Cockram, who is actually the main editor. There's obviously a huge amount of help which is given, but thank you to all concerned. Without this, our lives would be a lot more difficult. And also, I suspect, from everyone's point of view, we would have much more difficulty in actually presenting cases and dealing with some of the more tortuous issues that we actually have to deal with in a very modern era. So thank you to all concerned, and as I said, this is the first time we've ever reviewed any loose leaf formats, and it's been a privilege to do so. So thank you, Jordans. Bye bye.